NFL teams must be careful about drafting Jalon Walker. Here's why. Ryan, can Jalon Walker's play style work in the NFL?
It can, but you're going to really need, I think, to get him with the right defense coordinator. Because for me, Joe, this is a dangerous player in between. Is he a versatile player that can do a lot of different things, or is he a tweener? That's the question mark that you have to ask yourself in this one.
Well, it's the world that we live in where it's jack of all trades, but possibly master of none. In his athletic testing, we didn't get any, but we would have assumed he would have been a freakish athlete if he did participate at the combine. What does stand out to me is the fact that this is supposed to be a guy who's supposed to be a pass rusher, who's supposed to be someone consistently going after the quarterback, because that's what he did so well this season for Georgia. But he's got 32-inch arms, and he's on the shorter side for a pass rusher. So we have to figure out, Ryan, where do we put this guy? What do we do? Because he looks like a great athlete, but I just don't know if he fits the role of either pass rusher or off-ball linebacker.
Yeah, and I think that you do need to figure out which one he is ultimately, because I think that I've gone really back and forth with this guy as far as what is he on the next level? Is he a true inside linebacker? Is he a true edge? Is he a guy that should be playing on the second level on early downs and obvious pass rush situations and you utilize him as a rusher? I've actually gone back and forth on this one, Joe, and I actually think that he's an edge on the next level. I understand that he does not have the length that you would like to be an every down player, but in an odd front as a 3-4 outside linebacker, as a guy that can play a little bit in space at times, I think that this guy is a player that has upside as a pass rusher in a big way. The question marks are going to be, one, is he going to get enough reps to be able to showcase that and to develop the full arsenal as a attack style player? And two, is a team just going to be smart and not ask him to do too much? Because I think that's kind of blurs the lines. And when we get to our comp on this one, I think that it'll also make a lot more sense as far as like the utilization of this player and the fundamental things that you're asking him to do are going to make or break whether he is a very good football player on the NFL level or a okay one that kind of lacks a home, if that makes sense.
Right, when you have a guy who's a really good athlete and has sack production in college, you're better off having him play mostly as a pass rusher. We're going to get to the comp, but the comp is pretty favorable for him. We're high on him, but I don't think it's high as most. You see people projecting him as a top 10 pick. I'm not all the way there. I think he's a middle to the back end of the first round guy because of that chance that he doesn't work out, because he doesn't have the instincts to play off ball and also just generally doesn't have great instincts when he's playing in space. Where he does shine is the fact that he's got such quick feet. He's got such great burst. He's able to just out-athlete blockers on a consistent basis. But we need to see, Ryan, a progression, an improvement, better hands. He needs to do a much better job of actually using pass rush moves and not just trying to, juke past guys like he's going to the rim.
Well, and I think that's the tough part as far as when you are as good an athlete as he is, and George just said we can utilize you in so many different ways. You haven't had the time to just really focus on one thing, right? And developing those moves. I do think that it's there. Like I've seen a cross chop at times. I've seen some inside counters at points, but it is just generally speaking mostly been, I'm going to beat you with my first step and I'm going to beat you with my explosiveness. And that is kind of what has carried a player like this to being a difference maker for the Georgia Bulldogs the last 2 years. With a good defensive line coach, a guy that understands how to string moves together, how to work inside counters, how to set up opposing offensive tackles, I think that there's a lot of upside with Jalon Walker. You can't teach the explosiveness he has. You can't teach the closing speed he has. If you add moves to the arsenal and he lands in the right system, I do think that he could be a plus player in terms of being a pure pass rusher on the NFL level, but there is some projection that needs to be taken into account.
Taking a look at his background as we do on all these scouting reports, he was very, very highly regarded. And part of me kind of thinks that maybe he was being projected as a recruit to be an inside linebacker. He was a 5-star recruit coming out of Salisbury, North Carolina, third-ranked linebacker in that elite 2022 recruiting class. This was a kid who coming into Georgia had high expectations, took a little bit to get going because maybe part of what we're talking about here, Georgia also didn't even really know how to set him up to succeed at his best.
It's so funny because like you said, he's a 5-star, but he was he was the 5th ranked 5-star in the Georgia class that year, which is pretty
That's
wild.
disgusting.
It was literally according to 247 Sports Composite, it was Malachi Starks, it was Michael Williams, who we've talked a ton about, it was Dalen Everett, the corner, and then Marvin Jones Jr., who's now at Oklahoma as an outside pass rusher. So he was literally the 3rd ranked edge player technically in his class, although they listed him as a linebacker coming out of high school. So no shock, Joe. Georgia has another really talented recruits that they hit on in that class, and that was one of the more ridiculous as far as top-heavy classes that we've seen. I mean, there were literally in that top 5. You're probably going to have 3 first-round picks, barring someone like Malachi Starks falling out of it. So you may have had 3 first-round picks in your top 5 recruits in that recruiting cycle.
As we said, our pro comp for Jalon Walker is incredibly favorable, but I think that this one requires like a strong explanation here why I think this is perfect. This really hits every single box that we're trying to check here and when we're comparing a player. So Hassan Reddick, the former Temple linebacker defensive end, he at the NFL Combine, he ran a 4.52, he had a 36.5-inch vertical, 11.1 broad, 7.01 3-cone, 4.37 20-yard shuttle, and 24 reps on the bench. So all that athletic testing is exactly like what Jalon Walker probably would have been in those ranges because he's a powerful kid. He's got good agility. He's got good burst. He probably would have ran well. 6'1.5", 32 3/4-inch arms. So not like the greatest length, a little bit on the shorter side. Walker is a little bit shorter than Hassan Reddick is. The reason why I think this comp, and I love this comp so much, is if anyone remembers back to when Reddick came into the NFL and he was with the Arizona Cardinals, they tried to force him to play off-ball linebacker and force him to do it almost full-time. And it didn't work. He was not playing well, and everybody was talking about him as a bust. And then the minute that he started to actually go after the passer and just go be an athlete and go play the game was when we started to see this growth, where he was great with the Eagles, and he has been great in other locations since that time with the Cardinals.
Well, I think Reddick was the conversation point of the undersized edge rusher just in general coming out of Temple, because he was literally an on-ball edge the majority of the time at Temple. He went to the Senior Bowl, and he showcased well as a true off-ball linebacker because, lo and behold, scouts thought he was a linebacker just because of his undersized nature, and then they kind of pigeonholed him into a role that he was never really comfortable being. But eventually when they said, hey, let's take the shackles off, let's let you be an edge, yes, he might never be a plus run defender in the NFL level, but what Hassan Reddick is one of the best sack artists at his heights in the NFL, and a big part of why the Philadelphia Eagles were so successful in throughout the duration of the 2020s, right? So I think that you're talking about a player with a lot of upside as a pass rusher. You are going to have to be okay with him being a little bit of an outlier, right? Like, he is going to be an outlier on the next level. That is what Jalon Walker is going to be. But if you're comfortable with what he can be on the next level as far as a stand-up rusher, I think that you will be happy in the end if you choose to bet on an outlier a little bit in this situation.
Folks, let us know in the comments below, what team do you want to see Jalon Walker play for? Hit that like button and subscribe. We'll talk to you later.